Hi, I'm Evan, and today I want to talk a little bit about taxes. So first, let me ask you a question. Have you ever thought about taxes and thought, this is theft, this is ridiculous, why are they taking my money? I worked hard for this. Well, I want to explain to you, I want you to understand completely on why taxes are important and why they shouldn't go unpaid. So first, I'm going to talk about the levels of taxes we pay. We pay federal, state, and local taxes. On a federal level, a few of the important organizations that are tax funded are the Department of Homeland Security, the Federal Bureau of Investigations, and the Central Intelligence Agency, along with the United States military. So the intelligence agencies like the DHS, FBI, CIA, they all work day in, day out to make sure that we are at a high level of security nationwide, to make sure that we are protected against threats foreign and domestic. They analyze things, they research, they make sure that they can notice any kind of threat so they can act and make sure that we are safe. The military is overseas all the time. They are making sure that the threats don't come home. So they are constantly looking over everything. They are making sure that they can react properly to keep us from any kind of attacks. Because we don't want to wake up in the morning and wonder, are we going to walk out into a war-torn territory? We want to be safe in the mornings. We want to be safe every day of our lives. And these organizations help make that a possibility. So these organizations also have a lot of equipment, a lot of people. They have high-tech equipment. It's very expensive. So they have a huge, huge budget. They're really majorly funded by federal taxes, and without that tax funding, they would have a lot harder of a time operating at the level they do if they could at all. So with such high-tech equipment to do research, to make sure that they can analyze everything, make sure they understand what they need to understand and act against such threats, they need to have proper funding in both the national and the military level and the intelligence level to make sure that they can do what they need to do to operate safely. And then going on to the states, we have in Pennsylvania the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation, and they take care of our roads. In the summertime, in the warm months, they make sure the roads are sealed, the cracks are sealed, the potholes are filled, resurfaced, and they need to be resurfaced so they're ready for any conditions that might be thrown against them. So in the winters, if you're in a very snowy area, they have plows running 24/7 to make sure the roads are clear of snow, ice, any kind of debris to make sure they're safe to drive on, make sure they're accessible so we can get to and from wherever we need to go. So we aren't stuck at home. They make sure that the roads are safe so we don't have any as big of a risk against us. So they make sure that we are driving on safe roads. They are important, and they are a state organization that is affecting us in our daily lives. There are many more that are tax funded, but the Department of Transportation is one of the ones that you can understand a little bit more because they are affecting you in your daily life every day, no matter what road you drive on. It's that way because of the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation. The entire road infrastructure in the state is because of the Department of Transportation. And then going on to a local level, there are the emergency services as one of the biggest things that we deal with on a daily basis, even if it's not us necessarily, the entire city, the municipality. If there's somebody out there that is dealing with these, that they have to use these services, and they're majorly local tax funded. So the fire department, which a lot of times has fire and EMS within, and the police departments both have to fund certain things. The fire department, they have to fund the members, they have to fund the equipment, the vehicles that they use, because it costs hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars to afford the trucks that they use to equip them. It's even more. And for a single firefighter, it costs thousands of dollars to outfit them with the proper equipment to make sure they can be safe while trying to keep you safe. So with the trucks, with the oxygen tanks they use to keep themselves breathing, the personal protective equipment to keep themselves from getting burnt, catching any kind of fire in their gear, they have thousands of dollars involved in each of these sets of gear, and there's however many firefighters on each call, and then however many trucks respond. There's millions of dollars at your front door trying to make sure that you are safe. And with these taxes, I believe it's very important to fund these because you have the security of knowing, okay, if something happens, my taxes paid for this. They know what they're doing. They have the proper equipment. They can do this. Police department, same thing. If they have to react to anything, if they come involved with any part of your life, whether you need them or not, you might not need any part of this today, might not need it tomorrow, but sometime in your life, it's likely that you will need some of these, and it's important to be able to have them as an option and have them to the degree that we do because they are tax funded properly. So they have the equipment they need, they have the members they need, they know how to do what they need to do because of the budgets they have that are through our tax dollars. So what might happen if these taxes were not around, if they weren't in existence? So one of the major things with the federal organization, like I said, they have high-tech equipment. They have a lot of equipment they need to use to keep us safe. They have a lot of people that need to know what they're doing. So there's a lot of money involved. If you've ever researched how much it costs to run these things, it is very, very expensive. They have billions of dollars, millions of dollars in certain organizations that are funded because they are so heavily required. Like, there's a lot of things that are required of them, so they need to fund properly. They need to have a lot of money into their systems. So their budget is huge, and they are immediately, again, funded through our federal taxes. Without them, they wouldn't be able to operate at the degree that they do. So without the money that goes to them, they're going to have a lot less finances to handle whatever the organizations and whatever equipment they need to use. So they're going to be operating at a much more minimal level. The equipment they have will be rudimentary. They won't be able to do much of what they do now. So we will be at a lot more vulnerable of a place to foreign attacks, to domestic attacks, because we can't analyze things. We don't know what's going to happen. A lot of things happen in this world already, and without this, it would pose a bigger threat to our national security. So we would be vulnerable to attacks and to have this country go into a war-torn territory because we can't detect what we do now. We can't protect ourselves to the same degree. So it is very important to make sure these are funded. Make sure our soldiers can go overseas. They're protected. They have the equipment they need to protect themselves, to protect us, so they can go overseas, come home safe without much of a threat to them, to make sure that they are doing what they can. And then at the state level, without the proper money, they wouldn't be able to afford the plows that they have. They wouldn't be able to afford the services, the people that they use to produce these services. So if they're clearing the roads, they won't have as much equipment to use. They won't have as much time to do such because they don't have as many people to go through. Say there's so many jobs to be done, so little people and equipment to do it with. So each project is going to take significantly longer than it would without. And the projects getting done, even started, will be much more delayed. So if you have a lot of snow building up on a road, it might be a lot more time before it happens. So if you have 3 feet of snow on your road before you go to work in the morning, it might be a couple hours before you get to go to work because the plows just can't keep up. Tree falls down the road, it might be hours before it's picked up and cleared. Power line goes down, it might be hours before that's picked up and cleared. There's a lot of things that go on. These road resurfacing projects might take months as compared to weeks or days. And then with the fire department, police department, they have a lot of things, like I said, need funded, and without the local funding, the tax funding, they would have to be self-reliant on their funds, which would completely diminish their budget. So they'd have to find some other way to regain their income. And I believe it would be likely that there would be service fees that would be charged for these incidences. So if you had to have a fire department called to your house for a house fire, you're going to be slapped in the face with a huge bill because they have to render the services, they have to use the equipment, they have to fund themselves somehow, and that would likely be through service fees by charging for the calls that they go on, like a normal business would. So with these fees, you might have to pay for the response and then the equipment that's used and the time that's given. So you're going to be dealing with a life-altering event and then hitting the face of the bill, so that wouldn't be ideal either. And since they don't have as much of a budget, the equipment they have now might not be anywhere near as good, so they might not be able to go into a structure in as extreme of conditions as they can now. They might not be able to do as much to protect that structure. They might not have as high-tech of a water pump. They might not have as much water capacity. They might not be able to do as much to protect your house or protect you. Might not be able to extricate you from a vehicle as easily from a vehicle crash. And then police departments, whether you need them to respond for a minor inconvenience or a huge scenario, they might need to charge you for just a response and then services rendered. So there might be a huge fee that you have to pay now. So, and since they don't have as much funding, again, it's going to be a lot more rudimentary service. So I believe paying for these taxes is important to make sure that they have the funding they need to protect us properly, because I would much rather pay for these services and not need them than have to risk using services that can't do what I need them to do. So I would happily pay for these, for the security, knowing that if I have a fire or something like that, that I know that they can respond at an adequate level. So taxes are important. They are now. They always will be. So regardless if we want to pay for them, it might not be nice having the money getting taken out of our paycheck every week. It might not be ideal. Might not enjoy that money getting spent, but it benefits you in some way. It's not just disappearing into an endless void. It's always going to be used for something important, and it is going to affect us in our daily lives. No matter what happens, it might not affect us today, it might not affect us tomorrow, but it will affect us at some point where these tax dollars benefit us directly. So taxes are important again, and they always will be. Thank you.